this is a slightly different or a newer style of running Sales Today Procurement Special. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Fred Copestake. I'm founder of Brindis, a sales training consultancy. Yeah, sales training. And not over the last 25 years, been around the world 14 times, worked in 38 different countries, trained over 10,000 salespeople, which is a real honour to have done this, real privilege, and something which has given me insights into the challenges that salespeople have and how we can do stuff better, essentially. So that's what's led me to write the 3 books that I have, the latest being Ethical Selling, which was the subject of our last month's discussion. But this month, what I want to do is something a little bit different, to make sure that I actually cover the stuff that you guys care about. It's all very well me coming up and yes, I'm researching and making, I'd say, a hypothesis. Okay, it's an intelligent guess around what it is I should be talking about, but why not get someone to ask me? And who better to ask me than founder of the Alchemie Network, Alex Jennings, to come in and ask me questions that he thinks the network would want to know about. So Alex is perfect for this. Yes, founder of the network, strong background in procurement. But also, I know he's also served his time, I think was his expression, as a salesperson. Time served. Make it sound as though you're in prison, Alex, when you told me that. So
Yeah.
welcome, sir. Thank you for coming along and, well, putting me to the test.
Well, I mean, first of all, we talk about facts in procurement. So I'm co-founder of the Alchemie Network alongside Harold Hendricks, my partner in crime. But I played a big part in that 50-50 share that we did. I couldn't have done it without him, and I don't think he could have done it without me. Fred, thank you for inviting me on.
So, Alex, I know you were speaking there, and I hope it was some good, interesting stuff. But what I've done is I've done a bit of a boo-boo on my technical setup. So I got my microphone, my speaker wrong. So there we go. We should be good to go now.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, there we go.
Excellent, excellent. I was just correcting the sales pitch that you made, that I'm co-founder of the Alchemie Network, and my business partner Harold Hendricks is the big guilty party in what's been built. So thank you.
He's the tech expert, isn't he? That unplugged my earphones as a punishment to make sure I get his introduction. Sorry, Harold.
Absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, thank you on behalf of the Alchemie Network for doing your shows, because you know, I think they're brilliant, and I think you've just started by saying why this conversation matters, bridging sales and procurement, because you've spent a long time teaching salespeople how to negotiate.
Yeah, I mean, 25 years. It is a fair shift doing that. And you know, a lot of people sometimes say, well, yeah, you know, those who can do and those who can't teach. It's like, well, yeah, we actually have to sell ourselves as well to do this. So yeah, I have been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, and as you said, we're going to explore a little bit about how procurement can learn from sales and vice versa today. My reason for why this is so important is because it played a huge part in my career. So a good 20 years ago now, I said to the CEO, I'm ready to be group CPO, and he told me, you're not ready. And he said, I want to get you ready, and he sent me to sales for 6 years. And actually, that helped develop me as a person, because in procurement, we do have to sell. We have to sell our company to the salespeople because we want the best pitch. We have to sell our ideas internally to people who don't want us even in the room. We have to sell best for business to someone that sometimes it's not best for them. We have to sell our ideas and concepts all the time. So I think it's a huge skill that is underrated both in business and in life.
Look, I think sales skills are life skills, and I put my money where my mouth is on that, and done some work with the local university, not Trent Uni, NTU, to help them position that for their undergraduates, not just the ones in the business school, right across all the different schools, because when you look at problem solving, communication, negotiation, decision making, all of the things which I've trained salespeople to do train salespeople to do, we all use in some way, shape, or form. So I think we should be helping people get their heads around this from an
Absolutely.
early doors.
Before we start, so you talked about those who can teach and those who can't teach is a bit of a nonsense statement. But you started your career in sales. What drew you to become a trainer, and when did you decide, actually, I'm going to become an author and put this down on paper?
Yeah, I mean, the trainer thing was, I'll say a long time ago, 25 years or so, where I'd been to a training session. I thought, oh, looks quite fun. It's quite fun doing that. Yeah. And I didn't realize at the time how much what I have to do has to be fun. It's actually one of my core values. And so I approached the training company and said, hey, look, I think I could do this job. They said, come along, talk to us. I thought, awesome. I got there and they said, you're so totally unsuited for what you think you could do. They said, but your timing is really quite good, because we're about to put a job out where you are the right person to do this, because you're closer to the profile of the people that need the training, and we want them to relate to the person who's going to do that. So that's why I did that, and I had some great fun just going around the world and doing all sorts of things, and just brilliant. But it was about 2018, 2019, where I thought, hang on a minute, come on, some of the stuff we're teaching, some of the stuff we're doing, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't really like it. I think there is better we can do here. So I kind of grew up a little bit and just kind of really researched stuff properly, and that's where I put what went into first book, and came out 2020. Second book fairly short after that, because I got a lot of time in 2020. Didn't we all? So I got to the end of Tiger King on Netflix. I thought, come on, Fred, do something a bit better with your time. And then ethical selling is the latest, because that's kind of, I see where we're going with this and where all parties involved are going to benefit more. So yeah, that's the short story.
One of the things that really surprised me when I first made the switch to sales, and I think it's different now. I think sales have grown up and procurement have grown up, but we'd gone through an incredibly transformational process in the 90s and early 2000s in procurement, and we were writing huge strategy documents and preparing war games for negotiations, and we knew every little thing about what was going to happen in the negotiation, up and down. And I moved to sales, and I was suddenly confronted with these rather old-fashioned sales guys who said, I think the market price is about this, and they were almost doing this with their moustache at the time. And it was a feeling, and it was a behavior, and they felt they could sell to anybody. And part of that was because they were in an oligopoly. So selling in an oligopoly is slightly different, because they've got to buy from someone. But I was taken aback by the lack of preparedness from the sales teams back then. And that's one of the things I was brought in to change as well during that period, to make them think differently. Would you say that's changed now?
I wish I could say it's changed. I think it is better, but I think that a lot of salespeople would still be quite underprepared when they are working with customers. So I've used quite broad language there. And that's from the point that actually going and really understanding what a customer is going to be interested to talk about, which is their problems, not your product, to what you were talking about more specifically in negotiation, which is, okay, so what are we actually trying to do here? What's our want, expect, better get? Where's our BATNA at this? What variables have I got to trade? Where might we be going with this? How's that discussion going to happen? It's just rocking up and going, now I'm far too good for this. I could just wing it. So really, with people who are trained to do this day in, day out, that might be the fifth type of conversation they've had along these lines. You do it once in a blue moon. Come on, guys, you need to get better at this.
Yeah, I think.
And you know what? It's not. Sorry to interrupt, but it's not just about we need to get better at this so you don't get your pants down. It's actually, we're probably missing out on getting better deals because you're not in a place to have that discussion where we could be growing the cake, we could be looking at repackaging stuff in a way that's better for everybody, but you can't do that because you don't know how to. So it's kind of like, well, the buyer will go on a better price then, because that's all they can sort of move. Any lever the salespersons can play with.
Yeah, there's a real mismatch that comes across here, because I think salespeople are better at the behavioural stuff, and they've all been on more negotiation course and sales courses, and they're ready and confident when they go into the room. And the procurement people often will have spent huge amounts of time researching every last question that could get asked and have an answer for it, and I'll have a sub answer. And if he opens that door, I'm going in, and he's trapped. And those two, when it happens, it's real fun, when you meet those two different characteristics. But I do think that both are changing. And I think sales are becoming more technical in their evaluation, and procurement are becoming more prepared in the behavioral soft skills stuff.
Which should then set us up, like I said before, for a better conversation. We've often talked, for a long time talked about win-win. I mean, I talk about win-win-win now. So I talk about, did this in the last session, didn't I? I talk about the customer's got to win, your own company's got to win, but your conscience has got to win. You've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and do things in a decent, ethical way. But that just doesn't happen accidentally. We've got to put some work in, some prep. It's not just being like kind of smart and kind of gift of the gab and all that stuff that we still get kind of.
No, I agree. And I was going to ask you a question about the biggest myth about sales and procurement. And I think the myth about sales is, that I can sell anything, and the gift of the gab, that's something from 20 years ago. And I think we've moved on from that. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah, I do think we have. I think most people would get now that that's not a good thing. That even kind of, that sales, you need to be extrovert and all that. There's quite a lot of research that introverts are better salespeople. They listen more. They think deeper. It's great. They're going to end up with a better solution, But yeah, there's sort of the gift of the gab, hail fellow well met, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, maybe some industries still a little bit, but
yeah, car sales,
softly we're getting there.
Agents.
Yeah. I've got a mate who's a dealer principal. I'm going to send him this.
Yeah. So let's move on to the negotiation zone then, as I called it in the note I sent you. So what would you say is the biggest mistake procurement professionals make in negotiations with sales?
The biggest mistake procurement make with sales? I don't know if this is a mistake or whether this is something that they could do better. And they shouldn't have to do this, by the way. This is on salespeople, but we want to get a better result at the end. And that's kind of sort of dispel the myth that they're there to beat them up. So really that's it's not a salesperson. It's like, if they could always like put the salesperson at ease, and it could be that they're not even deliberately doing this, but the salesperson sometimes going in thinking, oh no, yeah, they're gonna kind of do one on me. It's like, no, I want a good deal here. I want you to work hard to help me get a deal. Deal, not price. Stop thinking price. Think deal. They also like help the salesperson to help themselves and kind of them as the customer, if you like. It's not a mistake. It's not a fault as such, but it's certainly an area where we could get huge gains.
Well, one of the things that I feel, having been on both sides, is when you become predictable, then you've got a bit of a problem. And if there are, I've met buyers in the past where they've always expected a quote, they beat them up a little bit, and then they get the buyer's margin, and it was always there. And they unpredictability. You look at Trump right now, and love him or hate him, from a negotiation point of view, no one has an idea what his move's going to be tomorrow, because I don't think he knows yet until tomorrow morning. So, but I think I used to go to negotiations with seven faces, and they would not know what Alex was going to turn up, and it would depend on what the process we were going to go through. And I would actually change my behavior and characteristic during that. My difficulty is I have to keep those seven people at work, and I used to bring them home sometimes, and that used to get me into all sorts of trouble when I picked the wrong one.
Did they have names? Did your 7 faces, your 7 personas have names, characters?
But I could flip between them definitely, deliberately and purposefully, to get a reaction from the person on the other side.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about Trump there. I was listening to a podcast which is actually by some poker players. I'm not into poker or anything, but they talk about kind of a variety of things, but through the lens of being a professional poker player. And then they say this unpredictability, it's a nightmare to play against poker. Then they moved it into negotiation, which is why I was listening. It's just so very, very hard. You don't know what's coming next, so you can't really plan for it properly. You don't know how to respond, and it just makes a real mess of stuff.
Yeah. A lot of what you've been teaching us during this series is around doing things the right way, and about ethical selling, and around getting a real purpose to what you're trying to achieve. But there are salespeople that don't live those rules, and when we're faced with those, can you give an example of a sales tactic that procurement should watch out for?
A scurrilous tactic, or a tactic which they could very quickly pick up on, that actually this is the kind of person I do want to deal with because they're ethical. I mean, a lot of those I did cover in the other ones. So the kind of, a well-prepared somebody who's talking about your problem, that's leading with that's making assumptions. Remember we were told, don't assume, makes less you and me. Actually, I tell some people, you do. You've got to try and do that. And rather than take offense, go, don't tell me what I should be doing at my job. They're trying to put themselves in your shoes. And someone who's leading with a flaw, who's saying, hey, we might not be the best for this, but if you're looking for this, 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 and this, then again, that's an indicator that this person is trying to do stuff in the right way. I think of scurrilous. I don't like to think of the scurrilous, or the sort of like, really, are you doing that? I guess it's just when it's obviously not true. They're trying to defend something that you kind of, I know that's not true. You must know it's not true. Why are we even having this stupid discussion around something that's just not right? What are we doing here? I'm wasting my time. And it is wasting time. And so much as we would say in the sales world, qualify out because an opportunity isn't correct, qualify that salesperson out as a potential supplier, because that's just going to be too much like hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've answered this question already, but on the flip side, what would you say is a procurement tactic that salespeople secretly respect the most? When a procurement behaves in a certain way.
I think it's when they are sharing information, they're legit sharing information because it's clear that they want to get to an agreement, get to a good deal. I once, gosh, it's very early in my career before I moved into training, and there was this ops director who, it's just the way he behaves. I can picture it now. That this guy had come over from France to sell some stuff that we actually needed. He sat there with his arms crossed, and he was just being a pain. He was being obstreperous. He's being obtuse. He wouldn't share any information. He was a big physical guy as well, bit of a bully. The salesperson just packed up and said, I don't need to do this, and walked off.
Yeah.
And we turned around to him and said, do you know we actually needed that supplier? That's the only person that makes the stuff within the tolerance of the things we need to buy. And you've just now pissed him off.
Yeah.
So,
I
being
would,
open on it, try to get the deal will be a smarter way of working.
I was visiting one of our customers when I was on the dark side in Belgium, and they happen to be the largest brewer in the world. So you have to deal with them. But he left me waiting in reception for 2 hours. And in the end, I left a note with reception. I said, I'm going. When he's ready to talk, tell him to call me. And I left. And I thought, there's a level to what I am willing to accept. And beyond that, you're being disrespectful. So let's draw a line. And when you're ready to apologize, we'll talk.
Yeah, because they're kind of playing the
I lost all the
transaction
business.
analysis game, aren't they? In sort of, well, you know what I mean? They're sort of, parent-child and sort of subservient rule or whatever. It's like, well, we want an adult conversation if we're going to get the best out of this. If you're already demonstrating that that's not happening, well, come on.
Yeah.
Harold, I've seen a question in chat. I don't know if you spotted that.
Yeah, I've just seen that come through. How do you spot if someone has talent as a salesperson?
Yeah, they ask a lot of questions. That's a very fast way of figuring that this person probably knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the questions are probably the ones that make you rock back and go, oh, that's a good question. It's been thought through. It's not an accidental, oh, it begins with W, what, why, when, where, who, how type question, because if I ask that, you have to answer with a variable answer. It's, gosh, you've thought that one through. Now I've got to get my head around it. But getting my head around it is actually what I needed. Oh, right. That's a good salesperson.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the ones, and Chris talked about it, the type of gift to the gab individuals. You've seen them when you're at a conference, and they spend their whole time. All their tactic is about relationship, and they just work in the room. They're wearing a flash suit with a cravat, and honestly, you see a lot of these in Dubai, where I am now, in their flash suits and their flash cars. And they've got flash watches, probably fake, but and they're looking to sell property and get people to invest money in things that may or may not happen. I don't like that type. I really struggle being in the room with those.
Yeah, because they might generally be like that, but there's so many who are false like that. You immediately get your barriers up. Actually, there's another great comment I'm just reading in chat there. Anyone trustworthy with a challenger personality? Now, challenger is very interesting. There's a whole genre of sales, or a book called The Challenger Sale, where you learn, or it's encouraged, that you do challenge customers. And we have to do that. And to do that, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because the hail fellow well met and the sort of relationship builder and the best buddy and all that, they won't do it because they risk the customer's displeasure. And we've got to be comfortable with that for a short period of time, because we're pushing back. Now, we're not being pushy. We're not pushing shoddy products and services. We're pushing, maybe on their kind of thinking. We're giving an insight and kind of pushing the way in which they might be looking at something to help them get to a better position. Again, that's a very skilled and talented salesperson that knows how to do that, because they've understood how to research to get the insight, the opinion, the point of view, that they then got the interpersonal skills to manage the conversation in a way that keeps it going. And after this period of discomfort, we get to the end and it's like, actually, that was a really good discussion. Yeah, because we've both been through the ringer a little bit, but we're better for it because it's helped us.
When I prepared for this, when I prepared for this, one of the questions I got was that, how can procurement and sales collaborate to drive innovation and value instead of friction? And I think some of the stuff you talked about in your last presentation around preparedness and around asking the questions and around setting the targets together at the beginning, rather than starting with what you don't like about each other. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, it's if we can work out, where do we want to get to? Now, for me, that would be starting out with my hypothesis, or this intelligent assumption of what is the customer likely to be going through, and what are they probably trying to do, and where are they likely to want to be. And the better you are at kind of working that stuff out, the closer you will be to getting that right. And if you're not right, actually, the very fact you've tried to do it, it's like, yeah, but Fred, you've shown you the kind of person that is trying to get it right, and I will spend some time with you so we can get it right together. And then we can get onto this path of, right, this is where I'm actually trying to be, but I'm working with you to do that because of the way in which you're going about it. There was bits of information that you'd have never got. You were working with what was available, and I can see where you've got there, but actually we're going over here and I'll share more with you now. So,
yeah. Well, when I look at my relationships in the past with companies that we had to deal with, okay, so they kind of got a monopoly. They have to sell to you, and you have to buy from them. I've had some of my best and worst relationships with those guys, despite the fact that you are almost interconnected in having to work together. And some of the worst are intercompany, where you've got an engineering firm that you have to deal with, and they're owned by your mother company, but they just don't want to deal with you.
And that was my very first job, actually, was working for an engineering company where they're divisionalized. We've got market companies and manufacturing companies, and I was with a manufacturing company selling to our market companies, trying to get them to launch some of the stuff that we were making in Lichfield. Most of them did, but one just wouldn't. They didn't want to do it. It's like, yeah, but you're selling the competitive stuff. Yeah, it's better. Not really. Or maybe if it is physically better, which it wasn't, but it's not better for the organisation, is it? And it was just weird discussions for a guy just out of university that this doesn't make sense. Business
Absolutely.
doesn't always, does it?
Look, we like to keep this to 30 minutes, and I know you're a very busy man and you've got other things to do, but we've got a couple of quick fire questions to finish off. All right. So if you could give procurement leaders one sales mindset to adopt tomorrow, what would it be?
Think like a partner.
Okay.
I can go into depth on the 6 skills you need, but think like a partner. That'll help you collaborate. Yep.
Okay. Best advice you've ever received in sales or given as a trainer?
One was don't get sacked for fiddling your expenses. If you're going to do something really worthwhile, but I don't think that was what you're looking for. It was make the customer look good. Make the customer look good. Yeah. Brilliant. That was basic. That was 20 odd years ago. Now it's like understand what their outcomes are, help them deliver on that, and actually then make them look good.
Excellent. I think on the expenses thing, funny story. I had this guy working for me and I was in sales, and he was putting his expenses in, and he was putting £50 into his car cleaned every week. And I said, look, there's no receipt here. If you don't put a receipt, you can't claim for it. And to be honest, €50 is a lot for your company car to be cleaned. And he said, well, I can't give you a receipt. I said, why not? He said, because my daughter does it.
That's quality. I'm signing off.
Oh, dear. Worst procurement behaviour you've experienced?
I want to say ghosting, as in sort of being all keen on everything and then not coming back to the salesperson. But I think some of that is on salespeople as well, because you've not been interesting enough. But even if they've not, just say, look, you've not been interesting enough and this isn't for us. Just don't waste time anymore.
Okay. One thing salespeople wish procurement understood better?
Oh, gosh. One thing that salespeople... that it's not all lunches and expenses and all that kind of thing.
It used to be.
Oh, yeah, but it's not
anymore. France, 3 hours, 4 hours. It was terrible.
I mean, again, I wish my answers weren't coming out as facetious, but I would say the value proposition. But then again, that is down to the salesperson to get that right by understanding what value is to the customer. So yeah, I think probably that, the snake oil, sleazy, pushy salesperson probably isn't really that common, and that is probably an unfair stereotype, because most want to do a good job and work and figure that is through getting the customer what they want. Yeah, that's
if you had 30 seconds to give every procurement professional in the world one message about sales, what would it be?
On the whole, salespeople are there because they want to work with you. They want to help drive the outcomes that you're looking for. And if you work with them to help them do that, then we all benefit from that way better. Yeah.
And one thing that I went on some negotiation training courses when, a long time ago, but we did them as combined, and we sent some salespeople and some procurement people, and we sat opposite each other, and we've had it videoed and watched and learnt, and it was really insightful what we learnt from each other during that period, getting them both in the same room rather than just sales or just procurement.
Agreed. It's probably the best training I've ever done, is when we've done negotiation training. We've teed up the salespeople to do what they need to do. So, trained, and then let them prepare with role plays prepped for them in their industry. and then get their own buyers to come in and be the buyer.
Yeah.
Everyone was terrified. The buyers were terrified. The salespeople were terrified. At the end of it, everyone was so fulfilled because they learned more than they did on the 3-day training.
Yeah. Look, Fred,
from my point of view,
it's your show. If you want to close it with your final thoughts.
Oh, well, no, I mean, just thank you, Alex. Thank you for coming along and firing in those questions. They were great. It's probably just as well. We do have a time limit because we could be here in a couple of hours' time.
Be
So,
all right, yeah.
I have a question. Can we do this again?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Right, let's set that one up. I think I'm going to go down the guest route again next time. There's a couple of people I've got in mind, but maybe the Christmas special. We can sit here with Christmas hats on. Mainly because I want you to wear a Christmas hat in Dubai. Excellent. No, seriously, no, thank you so much. And thank you people who've tuned in or listening on the recording.